on this. Okay, so we're going to take a look at using placeholder items for use in proposals. There's, you know, the number or the library, whatever you want to call it, of our placeholder items has grown through the years of writing proposals because invariably, and our proposal business is growing again on the audio design side. You know, you go to write a proposal and there's the standard stuff that you're going to use, but invariably there are items that just need to fill a hole, and it doesn't warrant at the proposal stage spending a lot of time, you know, trying to engineer it and figure out specifically what it's going to be. It's just, I need a 10-foot pole to mount 2 cameras on, and I need a budget for that. So, you know, a web search, a call to your local distributor, you know, something of that nature, and you say, well, and I'm using an example of a proposal we did this week, big CCTV proposal. Well, they needed 12-foot poles, there were anchor baskets, there was some sort of concrete template, but net, there's a cost of about $1,500. So there's a, you know, we have a placeholder then for a pole, and so we can drop the pole. Screen. What's that? Oh, you don't have my screen. Hold on. Well, that doesn't relate or translate to a video very well. And I'm rare to go. You know, pull my string and let's talk placeholders. All right. So do you have my screen now?
I did for a moment there.
I got it.
I got you now.
Okay, great. So the point of that is, and you can start to scroll down this list and you begin to see the kinds of things that pop up. You know, here was a pressure mat for a security system that got plugged in. You know, there's we just entered, I think it was Nexus 21 lifts, and they had specific freight charges for their various lifts. So we expanded from having freight as a line item to all of these individual freight items. And you'll see in our allowance menu, if we reference a price, then we put the price in. If we don't reference a price, we leave it blank. So if you just needed to plug in a freight amount, then you'd want to use this generic freight. I say they're all generic, but you'd want to use this one with open pricing that just says shipping and handling. And you can always change that description in the proposal, obviously. So you could say, well, I need a budget of $500 for freight. So I'm going to drop this one into my proposal. I'm going to tag it with a note saying, you know, shipping and handling for this custom lift, $500, and off you go. At the same time,
freight.
If there were items, if for whatever reason you have an item and you want to drop a specific amount in for it, we actually have them from $10 to $170 that you can use, and they're pre-priced. So you have that option there as well. So any of these items, excuse me, sorry, the way D-Tools works in a proposal is it looks back to the manufacturer, the model, and the category to identify an item. And if those match, then it will take the information from the catalog, including the product image. So we're going to talk in a minute about adding items on the fly within the proposal itself, because you basically have 2 options. You can,
excuse me, Kurt.
If we just scroll through, the idea around these placeholders is frankly to expedite the proposal process. The idea is I need an internal hard drive budget, you know, to populate this DVR or NVR. I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to look up an average price, $85. I'm going to plug it in, and if you use it from the catalog, you'll get a product image. That's the prime. Well, I'm not going to say it's the primary advantage. You know, it's going to be populated. If we've put it in our catalog, we're going to populate it with a labor phase. You know, we're going to give it our standards. We're going to apply our standards to it in terms of category, subcategory, labor phase, and price. You know, stuff that we can populate to it that makes sense. If there were accessories, you know, if it's an amplifier, for instance, a placeholder for an amplifier, there will be the power cord, there will be analog audio cables, there will be setup labor, that sort of thing. So if you can use one of the existing items we have in the catalog, really all you have to do is edit the description, plug in the price that you want, and it's ready to go. And our philosophy is, you know, if we don't know for sure that we're going to use it, or it's a new item and there isn't adequate information to add permanently to the catalog yet, there's a variety of reasons why, you know, I just want to get the proposal out the door. Let's use a placeholder. Let's reference the make and model. And if the job gets sold and we wind up needing the item, then there's money, frankly. There's a reason to spend the time to, you know, to get the accurate information. So that's the whole purpose behind this. And we have through the years, we started creating these years ago. So as BlueDog data emerged out of audio design, we've been systematically adding to this list, going back and cleaning up old, you know, items that were entered, frankly, years ago, to be more consistent in terms of the descriptions. So for instance, now we have a snippet for both this long description and the make model to be determined, so that there's just some consistency around those. So there are some legacy items in this list that, so if you see ones that don't meet the standard, so to speak, it's a legacy item, and frankly, if you want to point it out to us, we can go in and clean it up. But generally speaking, we're going to say it's an allowance for the item, make model to be determined at time of ordering. We leave a little, you know, kind of a reminder. It's typical of Western Digital model XYZ, and then it's just, that's basically repeated down here. If you use a report with a long description to, in essence, tell the client this is what it's for, and that we're putting it in as an allowance, so that we order the latest greatest when it's time to get this piece, and then you plug in a price for it. So, and of course, if you use it from the catalog, then a DTools report, if you're using a report with images, will pick up the image. Now, if it's not in our list, you have the option, as we've discussed before, you have the option of creating your own placeholder manufacturer. You can call it anything you want. I've mentioned that through the years, we've called these custom, we've called them TBD, we've called them generic. You know, we finally settled on this little dash as a manufacturer just because it's nobody really argues with it, and in a report, it just doesn't show up as any sort of a name, and that seems to be generically better. But if you wanted to tag it with your company initials or something of that nature, I have a manufacturer called Test. So if for instance, I wanted to create my own placeholder for this printer, I could say clone, and unfortunately the Wi-Fi on my laptop here isn't the greatest, but I could say, well, I want to create a, I don't know, a laser printer. So I could say, and then what I'm going to do is go to Edit Manufacturer, and I'm going to use my Test as the manufacturer. So this could be, you know, what, just to reiterate, our software matches up to down at the SQL level, a unique identifier, and that unique identifier is created by DTools, again, based on make, model, and category. So if you add a manufacturer to your catalog, our software doesn't know it exists. So it gives you the ability to do anything you want. You know, it's a self-managed manufacturer. So you can add products to it, you can change prices to it, you can do anything you want, just, you know, like you did before we managed the catalog for you, if it's a manufacturer we don't manage. So in this case, I'm using Test, call it what you will. So I'm going to say, well, I want this to be a laser printer. And I could change the image if I wanted to. I could plug in some different photo there. I could say I want this to be an allowance for a network laser printer. And if this were something that I do want to reference on a permanent basis, rather than this being a placeholder, I might say it's a typical of an HP, and this would be like my reminder of what I used. XYZ123 model, and I could go ahead and if I know that on Amazon this printer is $100 and I want 20-point margin on it, I can plug that in. You can put an MSRP if I choose to. You could adjust the labor if you chose to. Any of this information that you want to capture, again, this is now your item, not our item. You can do anything that you want with it. But by cloning from one of ours, it'll give you a good jump start of things that you might need. LAN cables, USB, setup, labor, that sort of a thing. I'm going to show you guys two reports that we use that reference custom field 1 here and custom field 5 here. This one, the EQ, equipment, is the equipment spec report. And the equipment spec report, and in fact, I'm going to plug some dimensions in for this thing. Let's say it's 10 inches high. Let's say it's 12 inches wide. It's 14 inches deep. And maybe it weighs 8 pounds. Because I want to show that. Over here in custom field 1, any item that has EQ in custom field 1 will show up on a report called the equipment spec report. And the equipment spec report grabs the image, it grabs the make and model, it grabs both the short and the long description, and it also grabs the dimensions. So it's a really handy report. It was actually developed originally for TVs. And in the Visio template we gave you guys, you'll see a sheet that is divided up into 8.5 by 11s. And on the audio design side, we use that sheet to pull things that are in the room. Like we would pull a TV. Let's say it's the family room. I pull the TV, I pull the sound bar, maybe I pull the sub. Anything that's physically in the room that a cabinet maker or an interior designer would need to be aware of, I would pull it onto that page. Well, the equipment spec report is a nice adjunct to that report because it'll pull anything that has equipment in this custom field 1 and put that onto an 8.5 by 11. So you can have a drawing and a report that support basically the kind of the specs of stuff. Install parts, well, the merchandise, install parts, and labor is part of Steve First's Fast Forward Marketing, Bravos Group. It was a report that we developed several years ago in conjunction with them primarily for organizing equipment that would be counted as inventory, the miscellaneous parts that really are generally preferred to be treated as a single budget as opposed to incremental items. So it's the merchandise install parts has really evolved as being, an inventory or a non-inventory type of an item, and then of course labor is labor. But there's also a billing summary report that references this, and it organizes everything in the project around whether it's merchandise, install parts, or labor. So it's used especially for companies that are doing non-inventory based accounting. It allows them to have a budget for parts, to charge against parts, a budget for equipment, to charge against equipment, and likewise for labor. They're also using it now for a QuickBooks push, where anything that is merchandise, they will push to QuickBooks. This would be your receivers, your speakers, things that are typically ordered for a job. Anything that's install parts gets aggregated in one budget, and they'll push that to the QuickBooks quote as a single line item. So your install parts might be, $5,688. Then they'll grab all of the merchandise and push those into the quote individually, so your receivers, speakers, etc. And then labor goes over either by phase or as an aggregate total as well. So there's all of the items in our catalog are categorized around this. And in fact, I'll pull up. There's a spreadsheet that we have with all of our catalog. I'm going to open it up for you real quick. We have these defined under our category definitions. So all of these are I think it's like 16 categories that all of the products in the catalog are organized around, and then whether it's equipment, install parts, or labor are defined here. So all of the products, all of the items in our catalog will have this designation. So just an FYI behind the scenes. So this will give us this product. So we just entered this product into our catalog. This could, again, like I say, be done at your local, outside of our managed items. So we'll save and close that. Actually, I don't want this to be approved.
Kurt?
Yes.
Go back to that custom field page again.
Sure. Let me open that up.
I just want a clarification on there. Okay, that custom field 5 down there?
Yes.
Are there 3 choices basically for this item?
3 that we plug in, yes, either merchandise, install parts, or labor.
Okay, and it's simply writing that phrase that indicates which one this piece belongs to.
Correct.
Okay, so in other words, it's not like you just write the whole word out. It can be either merchandise, install parts, or labor, and then when the report is run, it sorts it like that.
Correct. Now we also have some folks that are taking that same approach, but want to customize it essentially, and are using like custom field 4 to plug in a name, and then they're modifying the report to sort on custom field 4 instead of custom field 5. So,
Gotcha. But this is what you guys are doing by default.
By default, this is what we're doing. And the report, the billing summary report, sorts on those 3 terms on custom field 5.
Yeah, I have one thing from a little bit ago when you were showing the freight thing. I've gone ahead on my database and corrected it. There's tax indicated by default on freight, which I don't think happens. Oh. So I just thought if you guys would want to go in and uncheck that box on the master database, it might be nice because you don't tax freight.
You're
correct. Check it out. Just
you know what?
Pull that top item.
Let's look at
just edit that top item and you'll see. Yeah, that's where it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, sure enough. Yeah, let me make a note. Good point.
Yeah. Uncheck that. I caught it on my first time. My guys needed me to add some freight on a special project we were doing, and Kevin goes, "Hey, how come you're taxing the freight?" I'm not taxing it. BlueDog is. Okay, thanks.
No, absolutely.
That'll help the other guys out there too.
So I'm going to reiterate how important it is to us to get the feedback from you guys.
This was yesterday. This just happened.
Wow, that's fresh. So that's awesome. On the audio design side, we do a lot of, we're doing a lot of work around writing proposals and doing drawings, but we're not managing a business. So things like that don't necessarily come to our attention because we run the reports, we send the reports out to our client, they go sell the job, unless or until somebody notices it and says, like you just did, hey, that shouldn't be taxed. It doesn't necessarily show up on our radar. So the whole idea of having, I refer to our catalog being a little bit like a Zigbee network. The more people we add to it, the more feedback that we get, the better the data becomes for everybody. So, a suggestion like this will translate to people, and they're not even going to know it happened. It's just going to be right, so to speak, on their next, the next time they use these items, and not be wrong, which is awesome.
We just did a big budgetary for a house in San Francisco for a general contractor, and using your generics was very handy in throwing that together because there's no design really at this point, but they needed a budget, and it was easy to throw it together very quickly.
That has been our experience, and I know we're using more and more, especially as people are trying to move more towards a scope and budget model. It's not a pure scope and budget, but it starts getting you closer to that, where you can, you don't even really have to, for instance, speakers and TVs. I love just being able to throw budgets in for speakers and say, I want $400 a piece, I want $750 a piece, $100 a piece, whatever. And I don't have to, it's just, to your point, is if we're just trying to get a budget out there, I want to throw in amps, I want to throw in speakers, I want to throw in, just as many generic items as possible, frankly, and get the budget for them, and then spend the time to determine, to boil that down as to, what switch I'm going to use, et cetera. So I'm glad to hear that that's working for you. And just to reiterate that idea of there being in essence, a blank placeholder on something like a TV or a speaker. We have a speaker in wall that's not priced, but if it's tagged 100, 1,000, 250, whatever, then we've gone ahead and populated pricing for it. So again, with TVs, there may be TVs that fit the bill, a 48-inch, a 60-inch, a 65-inch. But if there's a TV that doesn't fit the bill, maybe it's a commercial application and it's some Panasonic Pro, something that you want to plug in. There's a blank placeholder as well. And again, this one's going to actually reference that it references here. Let me open it up so you can see that. I think this is important with TVs because we update this quarterly. We go through and we bring new models in, new pricing in. So right now, this references a Samsung UN78J 8600, and that would have been updated on 10/21/2016. So this is pretty current. But if this doesn't fit your bill for the particular proposal, then you can just use the blank one, and it won't reference a model. It's going to be that pound in the description. So it's going to say typical of, and you could plug in the model that you're referencing, plug in your price for it. But it does, still go ahead and give you an image. It gives you all the other stuff, the accessories and things of that nature will already be built into it. And all you need to do in the proposal is drop it in, plug in the model you want, plug in a price for it, and move on. And that's the idea behind all these things. And this, like I say, this just grows seemingly on a almost daily basis, but it's not that weekly, monthly basis. We're adding to this all the time. So if you guys are, if you're coming across things that are generics that you think would be good for the, the general use, shoot it to us as a request and we'll add it. It starts to get pretty obscure, but I saw a speak-on connector in here, so there's TV carts, turntables, over-the-air tuners, travel and lodging, tool rentals. There's just so many things that at some point somebody needed to, to have a line item for that in the proposal are in this list. And then likewise with owner furnished, we continually build the list of owner furnished equipment in the catalog as well. We just had a proposal that we wrote where we expanded these amplifiers as I'm looking at it. From a basic stereo amp to various flavors of multi-channel amps and 70-volt amps and things of that nature. So, things that are owner furnished, this catalog's growing as well. So, if we go over and look at that then in the context of a proposal, so we'll open this up. And what I didn't do is add rooms. I just as a reminder, if you're using our template or you've created your own template with a room, a location and systems tree, adding locations, when I build a proposal, this is always the first step. I look at the floor plan, I come into my locations, and then I want to grab as many as I can from our populated list. So if I've got a family room and I've got a kitchen and a master bedroom, I grab them there. And if it's from the, these can be already grouped in your master list as either rooms, closets, floors. You can give them a an abbreviation if you want. So if you pick it from that list, as opposed to creating it new, because I could create a new location and call it, Bob's office, and then DTools is just going to apply whatever abbreviation, it picks the first, whatever parameter you've given it, 5 digits, 7 digits, whatever, but it's not going to have a group assigned to it or anything like that if that's important to you. Whereas if you pick it from your master list, these things can already be populated. So just a little refresher reminder there. But so now if we were to, let me see if I filtered this at all. I don't think I did. No, let's clear it. So now, if I wanted to put that printer in that we created, oh, I made it unapproved, so I will have to go to all here. Printer, where's it? Here it is. Okay. So here was that laser printer that I created. If I needed that in Bob's office and for a local system, I guess, and we go ahead and drag that in. So because I created it over there, I mean, it's just like a normal item now. I need a LAN cable, so I'm going to add and close. So we'll go ahead and put that in. Now, so that's taking it from the catalog. But let's say that I wanted an item similar to this. I don't need it in my catalog. So now we're going to look at how can we add things within the proposal itself. Well, maybe I need a different flavor of printer. Maybe I want an inkjet or something else. I could clone this within the project, not clone it. What I want to do. Yeah, actually, I'm going to clone this, and we'll leave it in Bob's office. Now, I could go in and just modify this, and instead of it being laser printer, I could make it inkjet. And I could say that it's an inkjet printer. What's going to happen, though, is that's now going to break the link. So maybe that's the only difference that I wanted to make, but what that's going to do is it's going to now say that this doesn't exist in my catalog. So I lose the image because DTools doesn't recognize this as being in my catalog. So for my proposal purposes, this may be okay. An image isn't going to show up with it, but I really don't. I doubt he's going to buy it, whatever. I want to have it in there. I want to have a budget for it. I know that for this thing, it's $75, and I just want to have it in my project. So you can do something like that. You can also come in here for a new item. I could say, well, I need an item in my project that isn't in the catalog, and I can make it be whatever I want. So if I put it under my test manufacturer, and it is I'm just looking around my office. It's a ceiling tile. And it's just going to be infrastructure, generic. I can make it whatever I want in terms of a category. So if I just need to create something on the fly, this is a 2x4 acoustic ceiling tile. Maybe I have to replace some in the office that we're working in. These things are $10, $5 a piece. I want a 50-point margin on them. I'm going to be doing this at finish phase, and it takes me 4.8 minutes. So we'll call it, maybe we make it a 0.6, 0.1, 0.2, 5. What am I trying to say? Let's make it like a 0.1 labor factor. I don't know. So you could create now. If I know it's a half inch. I don't need dimensions for ceiling tiles. You guys get the point. So I could create this on the fly, and then if I needed, I could go ahead and clone this and say I want to uncheck keeping it in the same location. I want to put a dozen of these into Bob's office, and I want to put it in a different system. I'm going to put it in. I'll keep it in local system. So then, right now, because I didn't assign it when I first put it in, it showed up under location unassigned. So I could delete it out of there if I want. So you have the ability then to create things, either cloning existing items that are similar enough that it's easier to do it as a clone, of something, or you can create them on the fly by using the new product. So these items will live in your proposal, but whatever edits you've made in the description, in the price, any of those parameters will be exclusive to the project. Those don't push back to your catalog. Now, if you created something and decided at some point that, hey, you know what, I actually, that acoustic tile worked out really well in this project, and I can think of a lot of other jobs that I might use that in, you could update to catalog. So rather than recreating it from scratch, you can come down, go to update to catalog, hit products, and actually push that item in as a starting point for going ahead and adding it to your catalog. So if I said, you know, I want to go ahead and do that, say update and close, then I can come over to, let's see, so those items, that ceiling tile that I just created, just got pushed over here into my catalog under test. So again, I'm going to turn off approve for these items. I don't want my guys inadvertently grabbing these things for a. I'm working in the audio design catalog here. So that's a way, if you create the item over in the project, now if you push it to the catalog, you could go ahead and in fact add a product image to it if you want. Drop your product image in, go ahead and populate this out. So for instance, let's say I want to make this, I actually do want to make this a more of a budget item. I could say now allowance for 2x4 acoustic ceiling tile, and then you can't insert snippets at the short description level for some reason, but we've created snippets for, if I look at, I want my TBD text, which is make model to be determined, and I want for my long description, I want my TBD allowance. So what I have to do is just, I take it here and I cut and paste it up here. And now my, this, I replace item in brackets. So this is my way, and so now I can go ahead and finish populating this out. I can find a cost over here in custom fields. If we're entering these items, we have a snippet over here that if it's an allowance item for custom field 14, if it's a TBD item, we have a little snippet that we add: confirm cost list, install hours, dimensions, IOs as necessary upon make model selection. If there's any accessories, I could plug those in. So this is the way we go ahead and populate out these items. If I needed dimensions for it, I could go ahead and add them there. So that's a way that you can, if you create it in the project, you can push it to the catalog. If you create it in the catalog, obviously you can use it in a project. So if we come back over here, I think you're both familiar. Well, just in case, well, let's just add a TV.
Hey,
yeah.
Kurt, before we finish for today, just quickly, show me again where you run the reports that have to do with the entries in custom field 1 and 5.
Yeah, you know what, oh my gosh, I'm long. Guys, I am so sorry. I got on a roll here. Yes, let's do that real quick. So I have some things here. If we go over to reports, and we'll wrap up. My apologies. So the equipment spec report.
So it's in other?
Yeah, and it's the AD. We've moved. It's for us. It's here. It may show up initially under uncategorized reports. You can in your report editor, you can drag it into another category or recategorize it if you want. But the AD equipment specification, if I run that, this is going to look at custom field 1, and anything that has equipment in custom field 1 will show up in that report. so my test printer, that was my test printer, and because it didn't exist in the catalog, it doesn't have an image. This one that's in my cat, so this is more of the way this thing looks. If it's like a TV, the TV will show up, my dimensions show up, the short description, the long description show up, and a list of where they're located in quantities. So again, if you've got 55-inch TVs and 65-inch TVs in various quantities around the house, this report gives you that list with those quantities. So it's pretty handy. And if any of those items you don't want to show up in the report, you can come in within the project itself, sort on custom field 1, and just delete equipment from any that you don't want showing up in the report for that project. Doesn't mean you go change it at the catalog level, but if you just, for whatever reason, it's like, well, I don't want the speaker brackets to show up in that report for this project, just delete EQ from custom field 1. The other is the billing report. So if I run that, and I'll go ahead and close this, what that's going to do is aggregate anything that's in as an install part. So it's going to aggregate anything. Oh, see, so on my test product, I hadn't put install parts in custom field 5, so it's showing up here uncategorized. But my other install parts are here. So far I haven't entered anything that's merchandise. So, but it would show up the same way. Just say merchandise with those items here, and then label.
Show me where that report is again. I missed that.
Okay. In our list here,
it's under other. Okay.
Yeah, I look for it under other reports. I haven't recategorized it as client, so it's under this XMED.
No, don't put it in client. There's so many reports in there you can't hardly.
Yeah.
Okay, it's under, and which one is it?
No, my bad. It's under for me. It's under uncategorized reports, MED billing report.
Okay, MED billing. That's the name of it. Okay.
I need to rename it.
All right.
So that's where it is.
That's okay. I mean, at least I know where to start looking for it.
So if you go into your report editor, you could rename this, and you could put it somewhere that's more convenient.
Sure.
So with that, unless you guys have any questions, I'll wrap up and let you guys get back to work. I've gone 10 minutes long. I apologize.
Yeah. No, I got a big project I'm working on, so I appreciate it. I learned some today. Good enough. And if I find any more niggly things like tax on freight, I'll let you guys know.
Hey, please, and we look at your list. So and you'll see we comment there as well. So that's yeah, absolutely.
One other thing I might add that I think it was Rich Harris, your CAD guy.
Yep.
Pointed out to me that if you're creating something unique and you want it, and you're going to use it in multiple places on a drawing, it's good to push it up to the product database, because then the first time you select it and go for your drawing shape, there's a checkbox down there that will allow you to use that every other time you drag that out, which is very convenient, because if you're just creating it unique and you're using it multiple places, every single time you drop that onto the page, you have to go through that whole rigmarole of selecting the shape and putting it in there. So that's very handy. That
is absolutely correct, and that's a good.
Okay.
Thank you, because that's a good reason to do that. And Rich, who does so much of our drawing work, he's the master of that stuff. That's a great point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
Have a good day.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.